G'day traders, we're going to wrap up of Thursday the 2nd of August. So on the daily charts, we're still having these markets come back quite a bit. There's certainly some momentum on the downside. We had a really big sell-off and quite a volatile market leading up to today's action. And you can see they're bouncing off a bit of a 1350 area here, but it'd be interesting to see. I think they possibly might want to come down and have a look at this new trend line. So I've just reassessed this trend line. It's not confirmed yet. You really need 3 touches to confirm a trend line. But certainly, I think a lot of traders will have this on their charts and be looking for it, and thinking the market can come down and look at finding some support again if it wants to try and head up from there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens as we potentially get lower. So on these charts here, you can see this morning period here. Major sell-off, very volatile. There was about a 15-minute candle there at one stage. It dropped, I can't remember now, it was about 25 points in the space of 15 minutes. It was big selling, and of course what the market's done, it's got a rebound. It's actually come back. Actually, one second, I'll bring up the 15-minute chart. There we go. The 15-minute chart shows a bit better. Like I always say, the daily charts certainly give a very overall direction of where you possibly could see the market heading as far as the overall days and weeks are concerned. But then you bring in a medium-term market like this 15-minute or 60-minute charts, or like the 15-minute chart, just to really get a more of a intimate look at how the direction and the support and resistance areas are reacting. So really break it up into sections so you can see this market started really pushing down. So if it's coming back, just look for it to come back and get some sort of resistance of the bottom of where it launched from, or vice versa on the upside. So you can see almost to the tick that's what it's done today. But it's just amazing how many times the market actually does that. And obviously this is, keeping this on your screen somewhere while you're trading gives you a lot more of an idea of what's happening. And obviously these markets are very much on the downside and looking at trying to really push lower, and then you can use that daily chart to get an overall goal of where you believe the markets might be heading towards. So you can see with that in mind, this 5-minute chart, it's come down, it's bounced up, and then really started to push down. I'm not going to break this morning session down. Personally, I was watching it and just had no intention on taking any setups, just because the market was moving at such a pace. And when each individual candle is multiple times what the stops are, it's very risky trading. And I reckon from about lunch onwards, from 1 PM onwards, is where the market really started to behave with a little bit more consistency and a little bit more predictable in that regard. So after we had this real decent bounce, you'd call this a bounce after a big sell-off, came back, confirmed the downside after hitting resistance. We're coming down, so here we're approaching into lunch here. We're popping down and coming down a little bit lower. From there we've come back and we've really held a resistance area here, and the market's then tried to go lower. So when you look at the 15-minute charts, understand that the market definitely had its eyes on maybe heading to somewhere like 47. Let me just bring that up again just to show you. So this is how why it's so valuable, the 15-minute chart, to get an idea where things are heading. So I'll just squash it up a bit. It's a bit much. Okay, so there it is there. So this is where we're pushing down, we're popping back, we're looking at potentially 5-minute sell here. So if it comes down, starts breaking this low again, over here you can see there's a little swing low here that's likely to get some support, and that's sitting just below 1347. So if the market got some real momentum, start heading down, breaking that point, that's where you could look at having stops or having some confidence that the market's going to head towards there. In the end, it's got to bounce. It's decided to turn around, and this bounce was actually definitely something worth trading as well. But we'll break that down a little bit more on the 1-minute chart. But we've got a bounce up here. There was actually quite a decent resistance or support line at 1353. The market keeps on reacting to it. You can see it's bounced off it back here. So what we're watching for, this 5-minute sell actually came right on it. So you could look at taking it there, we could look for it to get underneath it, come back and potentially hold the area and push lower, which is quite often a great way to approach it. You get underneath it, you then all of a sudden use that area that was acting as a floor, which is holding the market up. We get underneath it, it's going to act as a ceiling and push the market down. In this particular case is not a good example because it didn't actually work, but I'm talking in general terms, and definitely a way I approached the market, and many times it worked. So once it got under like this, there was a chance it could keep on pushing down. In the end, the market's turned around. So when you see something like that, when you see an area that it should be holding and selling off, and there's certainly momentum on the downside, and you see a particular selling area like this all of a sudden turn, all the other markets start to turn, look for it to all of a sudden break a pivot area. So when it coming back, where it launched it from is about this level here, 54.50. If all the markets turn around and start breaking that point, that's a real change in pressure. You can imagine just everything's going from the downside to the upside. That equals momentum and likely to get a real continuation from there. And so breaking through this point here was a great buying opportunity after these selling opportunities failed. Okay, and you can see it's pushed up quite easily, broken up through this bit of a resistance area here. It's come back, tested the area where it's actually broke from, and then away it's gone on the upside again. And it seemed like an up move here, even though it was very much a selling day. It was quite predictable, this up move, once a few things started to happen in this selling area, and hopefully you can see what I'm trying to interpretate there. So on the 1 minute chart, let's just scroll across a bit. There we go. So look at all these blue and purple and green power points, just crazy volatile action. The only predictable areas you could see, even though it's a mess, and at the time you imagine trying to trade this, all you do is get it slightly wrong and you stop out in a second. But within this mess, you can see certain support and resistance lines still starting to hold. We've pushed up high, we've come back here, we've held off the top of this sideways range here. You can see top of this area here, it's used it as a support. So look for that. Market once wherever it goes from, look for it to come back and test that area, then go again, and that happens time and time again. So this market's head up. We've pulled back, we've bounced off a bit of a support level here, we've tried to go higher, hasn't broken its highs, then we've got a real momentum push to the downside. Once it starts breaking through this bit of a swing low area here, or this is twice the market's held and gone higher, we've put some pressure on it. Once it starts breaking through, this is a bit like what I was talking about before, once we start breaking through that, and if you see all the other markets breaking through this point, then there's likely going to be a bit of a change in pressure, and that's where this sell-off really started. Or sorry, I should say the continuation of where the market was originally. This was just a bit of a retracement before heading back lower again. Still quite some crazy action here. You can see just all lower power points being hit, nothing on the upside, so definitely some downward momentum. And then lunchtime period here. So towards the end of lunch, you can see big difference from back here to this section here. All of a sudden, these candles come back into their normal range of 2 to 5 ticks, which is exactly what we want to see. And then through here, so 53, let me mark it, 52, 50, 53 area, you can see the market's really dealing around that price there. So see, we've bounced off it back here, pushed through it, got above it, then it's holding all through here, then we got underneath it. So look for this to hold and then push lower here from this point here. It's not what's happened. In the end, it's changed pressure and starts pushing up. So once it starts breaking through this point here, even this point here, this is where the market's going to get a whole heap of momentum. So some strong green candles there, and like I said, it comes back. If the buyers are strong, which they're showing here, they're all starting to change direction, so they're definitely going to be some momentum on the upside here. It comes back, tests this area where it launched from, so obviously that lines up really well with the power point as well, which makes that power point very appetizing, and then from there it's pushed up higher. And we've finished up with a little bit of a move to the upside. Look at the pre-market now, we're going pretty sideways. Actually very sideways, so it'd be interesting to see what we do come Friday with these markets certainly on the downside, and looking to go low and keeping in mind those daily levels where they're going to look to find support, which is down another, let's have a quick look before we finish up, possibly anywhere from 27 I guess to 35, so that's well over 30 points away, so whether it gets that low or not, you might want to hold at 1350 level. But keep in mind, so keep on watching this and keep on watching your 15-minute charts, and it gives a little bit more of the overall direction. Anyway, that's a wrap up for Thursday. Speak to you guys Friday.